Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the comprehensive yet informal comprehensive study of Kant's critique of pure reason. Um, Matt and Pat here, just us this time. Sometimes there is a change of personnel and more people join, but this is another classic duo tackling of Kant's critique. Um, We are. It is a bit of a shame because I think that there are many more people here to go through this because this looks like it will be quite a philosophically interesting and significant, especially in terms of the history of philosophy and the all of those things. We're going over the analogies of experience, um, which is part of the general uh, principles, the synthetic principles, which are behind the categories of the understanding, and they're well specifically as they apply to intuitions. I had a really hard time summing up what this section was about earlier, but I was reading the translator's introduction, and so that was really helpful, and just kind of like getting a grasp of what Kant is doing overall. I thought it would be, when I started this study, easier to kind of just read and then like gain a kind of growing understanding, sort of as you might do with like a narrative story or something. Not that I was expecting this to be a narrative story, but sort of like gaining of understanding, at least in that way, kind of chronological, just building one on the other. But with the way Kant writes and his whether it's seemingly unintentionally confusing with the writing, or maybe just difficult conceptually that you can't really get around, and he kind of just intentionally is like, you know, this is my philosophy, and this is well, these principles, and it's difficult, but this is what I think is going on here. So, because of the mix of those two things, it has become quite difficult. So it's been quite refreshing to go back to the translator's introduction and try to just gain a reminder of what's going on here and the significance of the parts. And given just the title of this and knowledge of other philosophers, it seems like it will just be very significant. So I'm excited to have Patrick here with me. Do you have any introductory remarks of your own, Patrick?
Yeah, to be clear, by the way, what page is this?
295.
295. So I think we're in the section called systematic systematic representation of all synthetic principles.
Yep.
So we're looking for the principle, meaning like basically the first axiom in the terms I would use, right? The first thing that just has to be true, it has to be accepted and can't really be argued for in order for all like further judgments to follow. So right now we're talking about the analogies of experience. I believe he calls that a dynamical principle, right? Because it deals with yeah, it's a dynamical physical principle. And then the other one is metaphysical principle. Both of these are dynamical um, because they concern not just pure relations of ideas, but also what ideas can come to be. Now, what I find interesting is the mathematical principles basically are what Hume already accepted when he rejected causality and things like that, right? So we've been basically, uh, in spite of like looking into it, basically he wasn't saying anything tremendously controversial in its consequences, just maybe in the way he said it. But like in terms of consequences, pretty much everyone admits, okay, yeah, um, pure geometry, pure mathematics, all that stuff, we know that a priori, right?
Mm.
But now we've moved to dynamical principles, and he's saying cause and effect are also something we know a priori, right? So this is the axiom that is supposedly here to like basically give us an idea of cause and effect.
Yeah, which is presumably the necessary connection of perceptions.
Yep.
Um,
So
so
that's more or less what we're doing right now.
yeah,
I,
it seems pretty like that yeah, that's some good elaboration on the significance that I was kind of hinting at. And just because you were bringing up dynamical, I'm looking at that table on my physical copy on 285 that he goes into.
Mhm.
This is listed under physiology, analogies of experience.
Well, yes, because cause and effect is basically, in Kant's mind, the whole domain of like science, right? So
Hmm.
physics, like his model of physics is the model, it's Newtonian physics,
Oh, is
right?
that what he means by physiology?
Yeah,
Okay,
not yeah, no, he's not talking about like
anatomy.
no, he's not talking about like anatomy. He's talking
Yeah,
about like physics,
I see.
basically.
I see. Okay,
Yeah, there's no way he means anatomy right now when he's talking about cause and
that's
effect.
why it was
Like
a little
he's talking
confusing.
about like physiological principles, right? Meaning like with nature.
I see.
So
I
yeah.
see. And then
No, I don't know why it would be used in not the standard English way, but I cannot think of a possible connection of this to like a spleen.
I mean, like in the study of the human body, maybe it's like causal, like
But why that
really.
specifically?
Yeah,
Right?
that's what I was
Why is
wondering.
that
That's
you?
what I was like. I was like, this
I don't
doesn't
think
really
so.
make sense. So,
No, I'm pretty sure he's talking about like Newtonian physics.
yeah, interesting choice by the translators. But I was also in their introduction. They said they were aiming at like literal translation over like ability to be understood or other like form of interpretation slash
Yep.
translation. So, maybe in like Germany, there's a direct thing with physiology that does not mean what we in the usual contemporary English speaking world mean by that.
Yeah.
And that's also interesting though because then if that's physiology, then applied mathematics is still within the mathematics realm, which is dynamics, as opposed to pure mathematics, which is pure.
Well, how so?
That's just how Kant separates it.
I think with applied mathematics, he's not talking about like probably what we would call applied mathematics, but like what Isaac Newton literally called applied mathematics, which is to say physics.
But that so then why is that not under physiology?
Where are you seeing the phrase applied mathematics?
285 on the chart.
I'm looking at the chart right now and I don't see the word applied. Oh, applied mathematics dynamics. I don't know what that could possibly mean.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt.
Okay.
I'm
That's fine.
utterly clueless as to what that particular thing would mean. But hey,
Oh, Kirk has joined us. You're just in time. The recording has started. We're about to dive into the analogies of experience. We were
Yeah,
trying
just
to
gonna do
get.
something real quick.
What's that?
I'm just gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna be AFK for just a couple seconds.
Okay.
okay.
All right. Well,
Well,
yeah, that's going to start a whole thing. So if we even wanted to attempt, but I think that's enough context for now.
definitely plenty of context.
And preliminary remarks. Um, I would like to start reading once the Discord, like beeping is done, because that's going to be distracting. But
Yeah.
um,
Is the beeping done?
are
Testing test.
are you all set, Kirk, to be
Yeah.
here? Okay, awesome. Great. We can begin reading then. Now that we finished those preliminary and contextual remarks, would anyone like to begin?
Actually, just one more thing. Just one more thing.
What's that? One more time. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, now everything's good.
Okay.
Uh,
Perfect. Would anyone like to begin reading
If
um, the
I would like
proof.
to read, or you like to read. Like you can read, but I would like to read if that's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, experience is an empirical
Well, hold
cognition.
on. Shouldn't we read the actual principle?
Okay.
Oh, I had that up for a while before, but yeah, you can start
I
with the
think we can
principle,
still
Kirk.
read it.
Okay. Their principle is experience is possible only through the representation of a necessary connection of perceptions. Proof. Experience is an empirical cognition, i.e., a cognition that determines an object through perceptions. It is therefore a synthesis of perceptions, which is not itself contained in perception, but contains the synthetic unity of the manifold of perception in one consciousness, which constitutes what is essential in the cognition of objects of the senses, i.e., of experience, not merely of the intuition of or sensation of the senses. Now, in experience, to be sure, perceptions come together only contingently, so that no necessity of their connection is or can become evident in the perceptions themselves, since apprehension is only a juxtaposition of the manifold of empirical intuition, but no representation of the necessity of the combined existence of the appearances that it juxtaposes in space and time is to be encountered in it. But since experience is a cognition of objects through perception, consequently the relation and existence of the manifold is represented in it not as it is juxtaposed in time, but as it is objectively in time. Yet since time itself cannot be perceived, the determination of the existence of objects in time can only come about through their combination in time in general. Hence, only through a priori connecting concepts. And since these always carry necessity along with them, experience is thus possible only to a representation of the necessary connection of the perceptions.
Okay. So that's Kant's proof.
Yeah, so this is huge, and we definitely got to break it down.
Yeah.
This is actually maybe it's up there with the transcendental aesthetic as one of the most important passages in the Critique of
Yeah,
Pure
this
Reason.
is foundational. This is I've the hype that were building up at the end of the beginning and even before this recording have seem to be coming through fruition here. Okay. Yeah, I say we go through that again. Unless there's a part, Patrick, that you specifically like.
No, I mean that was a little fast, honestly. So,
Yeah,
um,
we can break it down.
let's sentences. Experience is an empirical cognition, i.e., a cognition that determines an object through perception. Okay, simple enough.
Yeah.
Is therefore a synthesis of perceptions, which is not itself contained in perception, but contains the synthetic unity of the unity of the manifold of perception in one consciousness. Okay, we've been through that a bunch of times, right?
Yep.
One consciousness has the experience,
Yep.
which constitutes what is essential in a cognition of objects of the senses, i.e., of experience, not merely of the intuition or of the sensation of the
I'm
senses.
guessing he means here the
I think he means that the category
yeah.
or that the
Yep.
synthesis itself is what is essential in the object,
Yes.
right?
We were saying
So,
that earlier in this section, I think.
so for example, if I see a table, he's saying that what is essential is not the qualia. It's the concept of substance, like that the table is a thing, which it's hard for me to see in what sense does he mean essential. But let's keep going.
Mhm.
Now, in experience, to be sure, perceptions only come together only contingently. Okay, so no necessity of their connection is or can become evident in the perceptions themselves. This is Hume's critique, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Since apprehension is only a juxtaposition, or as Hume would say, constant conjunction
Yeah.
of the manifold of empirical intuition. Okay, but no representation of the necessity of the combined existence of appearances that it juxtaposes in space and time is to be encountered in it. Again, still Hume.
Yep.
But since experience is a cognition of objects through perception, consequently, the relation in the existence of the manifold is to be represented not as it is juxtaposed in time, but as it is objectively in time. Yet, since time itself cannot be perceived, the determination of the existence of objects in time can only come about through their combination of time in general, hence, only through a priori connecting concepts.
Um
I feel like object is being used in a weird
hold
way.
on, hold on. I need more time with this chunk. um, okay, experience is a cognition of objects through perception, sure. Consequently, the relation in the existence of the manifold is what is the relation in the existence of the manifold?
The relation of object to object,
Oh, okay.
or of object to past history of said object.
Okay.
So, for example, I burn a piece of wood, and then it's reduced to ashes. This is a relation of two objects in time, the piece of wood and then the ash.
Okay.
Probably more things we could
Right,
cognize as
right. But yeah,
but
okay.
that's probably that's what I'm interpreting he means by relation.
Of the
So
existence of the manifold
is not to be
is
is to be represented not as it is juxtaposed in time, but as it is objectively in time.
yeah, what's going on there?
To me, I have a difficult time not reading this as him affirming the consequent. So, um, or like the manifold is to be represented in order to be like an object, right? In order to be an object, but not a mere apprehension, right? I think he's making a distinction between an object, and this is probably why they're putting that word objecta again, because object is being used in a weird way. I think he's saying that an object is like already something that falls under the synthesis of the categories. So, for
Yes.
example,
Okay.
it's not an object for me if it's an amorphous mass of stuff. It's an object for me
If
if
I've
it's already,
cognized it in
well,
yeah,
yes, if I've already put it under all these categories of
of
cause and
judgment.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but since time itself cannot be perceived, the determination of the existence of objects in time. Oh. 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 Okay. Um, so, um, it's actually very much like let's take it back to Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes, right? Okay, so remember when Descartes talks about the wax
Yeah.
and how he could melt the wax, but he still knows it's the same wax?
Yeah.
Well, Kant is saying that's only because, like, I have the synthesis of the wax as an object. If I didn't have the synthesis of the wax as an object, those would be two totally unrelated percepts, like the hard wax and the melted wax, because everything has changed. All the percepts have changed. So how do I perceive that they're the same wax? Well, it's because I've done a synthesis of the manifold already, right? So in order to have objects, which he says we do clearly have an experience of objects, I have to have the idea that there must have been some change of like a series of cause and effects which changes one state of one object to another.
Mm.
So, for example, I would have to have the idea of cause and effect that, like, okay, the wax is the same wax, but it was caused by heat to change. And if it
Because
weren't for some kind of rule, then it would just be random, and I would have no way of knowing, like, I would have no object permanence, basically. Basically, he's saying without cause and effect, we wouldn't have object permanence.
I understand that what's the argument there that he's saying? Like not
Well,
like
the argument is since without cause and effect we wouldn't have object permanence. We do have object permanence, therefore cause and effect is
oh,
true.
and that's what you mean by affirming the consequent?
Yes, because the assumption is that there are such things as objects, really, and
But,
that they're
but
not.
he's a mereological real.
Yes, sort of, but I mean, well, yeah. So he seems to like take the view that at least phenomenally, right, that wax, that cube of wax, is the same substance. But I guess the reason I take issue with that is because I don't think that,
You
like,
don't
I
think
think
that
you could have,
that the essential you don't like this thing right here basically?
Well, it's undeniable that in like our thinking at this stage of like experience, I'm perceiving like objects and stuff, right? But I think the objects come second after our idea of cause and effect, which I guess is what he's
That's what's
saying too.
Kant saying, yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't make it really true at all, because the objects themselves aren't true. And I don't even mean
What do you mean
of things
true? What does that
themselves.
mean?
Okay, so what does true mean? Well, okay, so his Kant's assumption is that there is. Well, I think he wants to have it both ways, actually, and this is a problem, right? He's trying to talk about phenomena, right? And he's
Right.
saying that phenomenally objects appear to us.
After we've undergone the
You know what?
synthesis.
I don't know how to articulate. I know how to articulate what Kant is saying, and I don't know how to articulate my objection to it. We can revisit it. Do
Okay.
you understand what? Do you think you have grasped what Kant is saying here?
That's what I'm trying to. I feel like there's something I'm missing here with uh not as juxtaposed in time, but as it is objectively in time.
Yeah.
What is this
Okay.
saying?
Okay. So the wax, right?
Yeah.
If I have a percept of like hot and melty, that's it. That's the whole percept, right? Versus a percept of hard, right? We're still using the wax as the example.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't an object. There's no object being represented there. But to represent those two juxtaposed things as the same object, I have to have a concept of cause and effect. I have to have a concept that one thing follows from another in like according to some kind of rule.
What is so juxtaposed in time is just the wax,
It would
without
be
the connection. So it's
it would
that's
be,
without the connection, and then objectively in time is with the causal relation.
yes, objectively is, well, it's not just with the causal relation.
But I'm saying like
It's
what he's
with,
saying here in your example.
okay, when you have a pure manifold before you,
Yeah.
right? And you don't be synthesizing it, right?
Yeah.
You are little baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
No object permanence,
Yeah.
okay? There's no objects, right? There isn't an object,
I guess according to like Kant's definitions, yeah, there are no objects.
right? Because like there's no particular object.
Right. It's just
It's
manifold. Yeah.
yeah. So there's no particular object. It's just manifold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So now there's also manifolds in time, okay? But something could happen, we say in our ordinary language, to something in a previous manifold and it's different in another manifold. Now, how do I have the idea that those two somethings are the same object?
Because of a of
So if I melt the wax, why am I thinking it's the same wax?
because you already have an idea of the. Hmm.
Well, Kant's answer is that
That's
I
what I'm saying.
already
I'm
have
trying to
an
find that in the
idea.
text. Like where are you seeing this in the?
Oh, okay. Um, Yeah. So it's after that. So yet since time itself cannot be perceived, the determination of the existence of objects in time can only come about through their combination in time in general, hence only through a priori connecting concepts. Now, since these always carry necessity along with them, experience is only possible through a representation of the necessary connection of perceptions.
Okay. I just had to finish reading the. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So since time itself cannot be perceived, so we don't get that like bare manifold, right? Because it's mediated by the understanding. The
Correct.
determination of the existence of objects in time can only come about through their combination in time in general. See, his wording is weird, but I still feel like I understand now. Like, hence through a priori connecting. Okay, yeah, he just writes this super poorly, but okay, I'm understanding now.
Yes. Yeah, I
Now,
don't know why he said time in general.
yeah, like that's super fucking confusing, but okay, well, it could be, but I mean, all right. Okay. Now, since these always carry necessity along with them, which I guess he tried to show in the deduction.
Well, no, we already accepted that as like axiomatic that if you have an a priori concept, it carries necessity, right? He said pretty much one of the benchmarks of a priori.
Well, I know what a
It's
priori
actually like
means, but
Skeeter said in Dug It. It's actually just like Skeeter said in Doug. Of course, he takes
oh yes,
it as axiomatic that only a priori concepts can come with it. I mean, I don't know the exact wording
right.
of
I
Skeeter.
know what
But
you're
this is
referencing. Yeah.
exactly what Skeeter was talking about in that Doug clip. He was exactly talking about like he takes it as a given that if it's a priori, it has to be like if it's an a priori truth, it has to be also necessary. And that only a priori truths are necessary.
Right, but where
Or that
does so? But I'm saying, I guess, where did he show
he's
that
never
they're?
argued that. He's never argued that. He's taken that as
Oh,
given. I mean,
what?
I tend to take it as given, but
That's so
he's
lame,
never argued that.
man. Okay, but like
I mean, how do you dispute that?
dispute. Well, it's more so like it's like as you're talking about like the 12 categories, right?
Well, no, he's saying, oh, not arguments for the categories and specifics, but like, um, no, he's not talking about the specific categories or any specific category.
Oh,
He's
okay. What
talking
is he
about the
talking
fact
about?
that like, no, he's talking about the fact that like it must be some rule that connects them.
Oh, wait. So, oh, the connecting concepts aren't the concepts of the. Well, I guess it is. It has
No,
to be
they
the.
are, but he's not talking about the specific concepts right now. He's just
Oh,
talking about the fact that like they have to be unified conceptually. Which concepts? Well, that depends.
oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure that's what he talks about later when he gets to how we have things like substance, etc.
Okay, I guess that's what I was asking. Okay, so I guess we'll. Okay, we'll get that later. Okay, yeah. All right. I think I understand adequately to move on. Thank you for helping me break that down. Um, yeah, foundational AF. um, would anyone like to read the? I guess Patrick, maybe you want to read the next two.
Yeah,
This one's
sure.
really
I'll
short.
read the next one. The three modi of time, or modi, I guess.
Hmm.
The three modi of time are persistence, succession, and simultaneity. Hence, three rules of all temporal relations of appearance, in accordance with which existence of each can be determined with regard to the unity of time. What? Hence, hence there are, I suppose to say. He says, hence three rules.
Hmm.
I guess he's saying, hence there are three rules of all temporal relations of appearances, in accordance with which the existence of each can be determined with regard to the unity of all time. Precede all experience and first make it possible. I'll keep going.
Hold up. Hence three.
He hasn't told us what those are yet.
Oh. I thought I was looking for a connection between like these three and then the three. I don't know. I don't really understand what he's saying there. Is he just saying?
Oh, wait. Oh, the unity of time precede all experience. No, I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't quite get it. But persistence, right? I know he's going to talk about substance.
Right.
Succession is cause and effect, I think. And I forget what
Simultaneous.
simultaneity is. Uh,
Um.
maybe inherence, possibly. Anyway,
um. Okay.
well, it's in the table of contents regardless, so I can. Why don't I just look that up since he's not
Yes.
mentioning it?
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Table of contents. Persistence of substance, the principle of temporal succession according to the law of causality, and then the principle of simultaneity according to the law of reciprocity or community.
So is that just saying that like two things exist at the same time?
I guess so. Schopenhauer doesn't believes that reciprocity is a fake category invented by the German language.
um,
The reason you're having trouble understanding it is because it's like a German word that
oh,
doesn't directly. At least that's what Schopenhauer will tell you.
okay.
Because I didn't understand it either. It's like, but yes, it is basically just that two things exist at the same time, or many things exist at the same time.
Yeah, okay. And then hence three rules of all temporal relations of appearances, in accordance with which the existence of each can be determined with... So he's just saying three rules of time. No, three rules.
Well, there are three parts. There's three relations in time: simultaneity, succession,
And these precede all experience.
and therefore there are three analogies of experience, which are cause and effect, and community, and substance. Does that make sense?
Um,
He's giving the reason why there are three. The reason that there are three uh, uh, categories, I think. The reason that there are three categories
or
is
modi.
that there are three modi of time.
There are only, wait, three categories.
There
Oh,
are
of
three
like connecting
categories.
concepts?
Uh, there are three categories. What does he call the connecting concepts that are analogy of experience? I think it's relation,
Like, this is kind of what
maybe.
I'm saying with Kant. Like, I just feel like he like says shit sometimes, and I'm just like, bro, that...
Analogies of experience correlate to the which one is this on the table?
Oh, the physiological.
No, the earlier table, the table of judgments.
Oh,
I gotta put a bookmark in the table of judgments because this is like the 20th time I've had to come back to the table of judgments. Do you know what page it's on?
I'm also looking.
Okay.
Um,
206.
okay.
So yeah, relation. Right. Okay, so the possible relations of judgments. The possible judgments are categorical, hypothetical, and disjunctive judgments. Okay. And then he says that for the categorical relation, you have substance, and for the hypothetical relation, you have you have cause and effect. Okay, that one makes sense. And then for the disjunctive relationship, you have community or reciprocity. Um,
Where does he say that?
so 206, well, it's implied by the 3 and 3.
Because is this because we're under the section?
Analogies of experience, which is the third section.
Oh, that's supposed to relate to the four, like these four are supposed...
Category. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah. The whole time.
see, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was definitely missing. Like, I don't know, stuff seems to be missing in my understanding of like precisely. Was there somewhere he said that? I mean, we don't have to go back to it now. I'm just curious, you know, off the top of your head. If not, I can like look for it later.
I think he said it in a couple places, but I don't remember off the top of my head what
Oh,
section
okay,
that would be.
that's fine. I'll look for that later. Okay. So these, okay, so then, yeah, okay, these... All right. Yeah. All right. I guess continue. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, I will now continue.
Yeah.
The general principle of all three analogies rests on the necessary unity of all perception with regard to all possible empirical consciousness of perception at every time. Consequently, since that is an a priori ground, it rests on the synthetic unity of all appearances according to their relations in time. For the original law of perception is related to the inner sense, the sum of all representations, and indeed related a priori to its form, i.e., the relation of the manifold empirical consciousness in time. Now, the original law of perception of this manifold, so far as its temporal relations are concerned, is to be unified. For this is what its transcendental unity under which everything stands, that is to belong to my, i.e., my united cognition, and thus can become an object for me, asserts a priori. This synthetic unifold in the temporal relation of all perceptions, which is determined a priori, is thus the law that all empirical time determinations must stand under rules of general time determination, and the analogies of experience with which we will now deal must be rules of this sort. Nope, didn't get it.
I didn't either. All right. Let's go again.
The general principle of all three analogies rests on the necessary unity of our perception with regard to all possible empirical consciousness
Okay.
of perception at every time. Okay,
That's
I know what
fine.
he's saying.
Yep.
Consequently, since that is an a priori ground, it rests on the synthetic unity of all appearances according to their relation in time.
What
That would
is
follow from your assertion, but you haven't proved the assertion yet. I don't understand in what way.
it?
Okay,
Rests on the synthetic unity.
he's saying the same thing twice.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, I think it. I mean, I think to steal man Kant here, what else would it look like if you're talking about perception over time?
What do you mean?
Like you're saying he hasn't proved his case? Is that what you're saying, or do you just
No, meaning I don't understand what he's saying in this particular paragraph.
okay?
We're trying to understand what
Well,
do you
I
know what
think
he's saying?
it sounds like he's repeating what he's already said, but I don't. Maybe I'm just missing something.
It did not sound like that to me at this moment. Because what it sounds like to me he's saying is something about the perception and the fact that it's like one time in general, which is not what I had originally thought at all, as a matter of fact. So the general principle, okay, so he's saying all of them rest on that perception. That's the whole first sentence.
Yeah.
For the original law of perception is related to the inner sense. So time.
What the sum of all representations? What does he mean
Well,
by
all
sum?
representations are in time. So
Is that what he
by
means by
being
sum?
I'm guessing so.
Okay.
So what is the original law of perception?
The original perception is just the synthetic. I actually I was able to pick this up when I was re-uploading or not re-uploading when I was uploading the backlog of Kant studies onto YouTube. It's just another word for the synthetic opperception, like the synthetic a priori. He just opposes it to empirical opperception.
Okay. And indeed related a priori to what? Keep going.
Oh, sorry.
Next page.
To its
To
form,
its form. Huh.
the relation.
Of manifold empirical consciousness in time. Let me read that again. For the original law of perception is related to the inner sense, and indeed related a priori to its form. Okay, but that's an assertion, i.e., the relation of the manifold of empirical consciousness in time. Again, that's just an assertion. Now, the relation of all perception. Now, in the relation of the original all perception to this manifold,
Oh,
so far as its temporal relations are concerned, is to be unified. Okay, the original all perception, all this manifold is to be unified. In order to be one, sure,
yeah.
in order to be one Yes, okay. For that is For this is what its transcendental unity, under which everything stands, that is to belong to my cognition, and thus can become an object for me, asserts a priori. Okay. This synthetic unity in the manifold, the synthetic unity in the temporal relation of all perceptions, which is determined a priori, is thus the law that all empirical time determinations must stand under rules of general time
Oh, there's
determination.
general again. General time. Does that just mean? Is he just meaning general here, like the conceptual, like the as
Not,
opposed, like does he mean
I'm not.
objective time?
What? What do you mean objective
What he
time?
was calling? What I was getting so confused on earlier.
I don't know what general time determination is.
Well, he mentioned it up here. Yeah,
I think it's another. I think general time
objectively in
determination is
time.
another. I think general time determination is another word for categories of relation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I meant by like objective time, like objectively in time. Like he's comparing it to
Like
the
I think,
the
for
un.
example, a general time determination would be substance or cause and effect. Those are the general time determinations.
Yeah.
So like he's reaching his conclusion. Okay.
Okay.
This
So
synthetic unity in the temporal relation of all perceptions, which is determined a priori, is thus a law that all empirical time determinations must stand under rules of general time determination.
mm-hmm.
And the analogies of experience with which we now deal must be real rules of this sort. So it seems to be the idea. Could you, Kirk? Okay, thank you. So that time, he just says, is to be unified. In order for everything that I experience to be my experience, my cognition has to be united. But in what sense? Right? Previously, when I understood the unity of all perception, it was just that fact that the unity of all perception, like it is in one time. Everything exists in one time. That's what I previously understood. But now he's saying that things have to be unified according to more specific rules in order to be unified. The synthetic unity and the temporal relation of all perceptions. The synthetic unity in the What's your take on this?
I think it makes sense. Unless
Can you
I'm missing something, he is basically just saying that let me. I guess I'll just start like more at the beginning of this. He's basically just saying that uh, temporal relations are unified under the transcendental unity, uh, of op perception. And then
Okay, but I don't get
therefore there and so the consequence of that is that everything that stands under which everything stands that is to belong to asserts a priori. He's basically just saying that what he's talking about here falls under the transcendental unity of op perception, therefore it is a priori.
Okay, but I don't see how. So
Because
what
it
he's
falls under
talking
the
about?
transcendental unity of op perception.
No,
That is
but I don't see.
fundamentally, huh?
No, but I don't see how what he's talking about, because what he's talking about is like there must be rules. He's making an argument for the idea that
Yeah.
there must be rules of time relation, right? And
Yeah.
everything must follow these rules of time relation.
Mm-hmm.
But why do there need to be rules of time relation for me to have synthetic unity of apperception?
Because it's like you said before, we wouldn't have object permanence. I think is the argument, right?
Well, that doesn't sound like the argument he's making right here. That sounds like a different. I don't see the connection between that argument and what he's saying right now.
I think it's all the same thing. Where are you seeing the difference?
Well, one is to have objects, right, which is outside of us, and the other is to be a subject. So that's what the difference seems like to me, right? The transcendental unity of apperception is to be a subject, like one subject.
Well, it's also to have representations. There is no this.
I don't know that is.
That was in the transcendental deduction. That's what he was going over. That's what apperception like is. It's the I think connected to the representation
Right,
spontaneously.
but the having representations doesn't sound like right. So it's the I think, not the representations.
No, the transcendental unity is the I think from I was just rereading this because I was very confused, um, and re-uploading these on YouTube or not re-uploading. I keep saying re-uploading. I was uploading them to YouTube in the backlog of videos. So I was rewatching this because I was having a hard time. I was rereading it as I was like uploading it, and it seemed to me that the transcendental unity isn't just subjectivity. It's the relationship between like what you conceive of to like is the I think, and then the representations. Um, it's that link between them, like it's the unification.
Okay, but why does there need to be a unification, and in what sense is there a unification?
Um, in the sense of I guess
Okay, like
yeah,
it seems like he's saying, right? Everything has to stand on the transcendental unity of apperception.
yes,
Therefore, everything has to be unified. Therefore, everything has to stand under a general rule.
yeah.
Okay. But the word unified seems like it's being used equivocally there, right?
Well, unify
Because
just the unification of the representation with the subject, which happens through spontaneously through the understanding. So, and
okay,
it's the
but
understanding that is the a
why do I
priori
have to
concepts,
okay,
huh?
but why do I have to understand like why do I have to understand something to know that I am experiencing it?
Because that's
Because
exactly what reflexivity is it not? Like kind of like you were saying, when you're a baby, you don't have object permanence. There are no objects. Like I mean, yeah, like in the sense of what Kant means by objects.
I just don't see how we go from that to this. Um
Um, is there like a gap somewhere that you would expect? Like were you expecting like another like I don't know? Can you
yeah,
just
I don't
describe
I
that?
I
Like
strictly don't it seems strictly like a non sequitur. Like I don't understand the relation. I was pulling stuff about like this is what's necessary for us to have an object. And then the other argument seems to be this is what needs to be necessary for us to know that our representations are our own. And I just don't see the connection between those two. Like,
I'm pretty sure that's what I'm pretty sure that's what opperception is,
what is apperception? The second one.
huh?
Yeah, apperception is the second one. What is necessary for us to understand that representations are our own? But what does that have
Yes.
to do with object permanence?
Well, it's the precondition for all experience, for all objects.
Yeah, but then I don't I
Isn't this Kant's like big like supposed to be like his beefy argument that like it's literally built into like our experiential reality, like these rules?
uh yes, and I don't understand that argument.
Okay, I think we would have to like maybe detour back to like apperception. then,
I guess.
which obviously I'm not going to do now. Um, Also, I only have a few minutes left, and we're not going to get all this done in those 7 minutes.
No.
So, do we want to pick it up?
Yeah, we can pick it up another time.
I'm just trying to figure out where. Here.
Yeah,
So,
A 178.
all right. Okay. So we'll pick it up on A178. Um, Hopefully, we can come back next time and like revisit this and put this to bed, so to speak, by revisiting. Um, well, I'll try to revisit off camera. This how the synthetic unity, of our perception relates to time, and thus time determinations. Um, which I thought was just from the fact that they're found in the understanding, so they must apply. But I guess we'll get more detail on that. So, alrighty, we'll see you next time for that. Another two-parter. Whoop-de-doo. um,
Okay, stream ended.